Hey guys, Dustin Riekman here from EngageMarriage.com. Just wanted to hop on here real quick for a few minutes and talk about a really important topic that's a bit controversial, but it's also really timely with this back to school season right now. And that's the idea that your kids should not be the top priority in your life. And I know that may strike you a little bit, may make you wonder if I'm a little crazy. And I know even in our relationship over the years, we've had the same struggle. So just to give you a little background on where I'm coming from with this, we have three children. They're now 11, 9, and 6. And so we've been at this for a while. And it's always so easy to let their needs, their wants, their desires kind of rise to the top in our life and kind of take over, right? And I'm sure you can relate to that. And so what we try to do, and we're not perfect, but what we really consciously try to do and what we encourage from our kids, and we're very open with them, is a different set of priorities, right? And that, we're Christians. So for us, number one is God, Jesus Christ. That's the number one thing in our life, and we want that to be the number one thing in our kids' lives too. Number two is our marriage. And number three is our family, is our children, right? So, and we're open with the kids. It's not that we don't love them at all. That's not the case. But they are there in that priority list for a reason, right? So why would I say that? Like, why would I encourage, I encourage marriages and I encourage strong families. Why would I encourage you to not make your kids a top priority? Well, the key here is that they need to be below your marriage in the order of priority. And that's because the best thing, honestly, that you can do for your family, for those kids, is to have a healthy marriage, right? And that's true for a few reasons. You can think about the idea that where are they going to get an example of marriage or what a healthy relationship looks like? They've got to really get it in your household, because they're not going to get it from TV. They're not going to get it from our culture, right? They're not going to get that elsewhere. They're probably not going to get that at school. They're probably going to be in school with kids who are suffering from broken relationships. So one's just a healthy example for them. Another good reason, if you're really interested in your kids' best welfare, is that it's going to let your kids feel secure, right? You can think about that. I grew up in a pretty broken home. I had an alcoholic dad, a lot of abuse, a lot of bad issues. My parents finally divorced when I was around 12, 13 years old. And at the time, that felt like a blessing because it was such a broken, terrible home. So you can imagine I grew up with a very skewed negative view of marriage because of abuse. But likewise, if my parents would have just been disconnected, completely lacking in intimacy, and they always paid attention to me, but they never paid attention to each other, and they fought a lot, and they didn't spend a lot of time together, that would make me, for one, feel insecure, especially when my friends' parents are getting divorced, and of course, ultimately, it could have been my parents getting divorced, and that breeds a lot of insecurity in kids. And again, you're not giving them a healthy model. So think, putting your kids first a lot of times means putting their immediate wants and desires last. We're going to talk about what that looks like here in a second, and why this is so important to back to school. But the third thing that I want you to focus on, why you put your kids below your marriage, is obviously for the sake of your marriage, right? If you're putting things in front of your marriage other than your faith life, they're going to take the priority when it comes to how you spend your time, the boundaries that you put around your space and your time and your intimacy together, and that can be a real detriment to your marriage. And that's where the back to school thing comes in. At this time of year, there's kids like ours that are going off to middle school now, which seems unbelievable, elementary school, in different stages of life. But there's also the high school graduates, right, and the college graduates. And this is the time of year when the empty nest syndrome really starts for a lot of couples. And you may not know it, but there's the early years of marriage, about 4 to 8, when a lot of divorces happen. And another really high time for divorces is, that 50 years old, that empty nest time, when the two parents are finally without kids in the home. That can be a wonderful time, a time to really be intimate and really enjoy the quiet time together and be able to do some things and travel and things you haven't been able to do. But for so many and far too many couples, it's the roommate syndrome, right? You wake up, the kids are not in the house any longer because they're off doing their thing, and this can happen even in high school when they're kind of becoming independent and they're off doing their thing, but especially when they're permanently out of the house. And you can wake up one day, kind of look at your spouse and say, who are you, right? And maybe not literally, but very much you can feel that way. And we hear from couples so much that are just feeling so distant, so hurt. And it was never with malice or intent. It wasn't that you intended to grow apart or even there was really a quote-unquote problem. But what happened was you weren't feeding and nurturing your relationship during all those years. So after 5, 10 years of living as roommates and not putting your relationship above the needs of your children and spending the quality time that you need on it, you do kind of feel like the slippery slope has fallen out from underneath your feet and you're in a bad spot. So I don't say that to scare you, I say that to encourage you. Use the time now. I know it's busy, trust me, we have 3 kids here. And I've taken just a few minutes here with them out of the house to shoot this quick video for you. But there's very little quiet time, right? So how do you make this happen? What's the practical way to make this work in your marriage? How do you keep your marriage first above your kids and make it be healthy? The key is to set aside devoted time for each other, right? To set those boundaries and to let your kids know, especially as you get older and they start understanding this. Let your kids know what your priorities are and to set the time apart for the 2 of you to be a couple, right? If you've been around engaged marriage for any length of time, we write about this all the time. We talk about it in our live trainings. We do it in our couples coaching because it's very, very simple, but because it's so simple, it's really easy not to do. And it's one of those things that if you don't do it over a long period of time, it can really damage your relationship. So what do I mean? I mean, spend 15 minutes a day as a couple. So what do you do during those 15 minutes? You can just talk, right? You can do some really constructive exercises. You can work on things with your communication, your intimacy. You can, do some self-study with each other, things like that. And, and then you may say, well, when am I going to do this? I'm super busy. We've got baseball, basketball, golf. I've got all of the above right now, and I understand. That's where the prioritization comes in. It's only 15 minutes for one thing, so hopefully you can find some time first thing in the morning or immediately when the kids go to bed, and you have that time that's always set aside for the 2 of you. And again, it becomes part of your routine when it becomes your top priority. So you need to let the kids know whether you're tired or not, you're in bed at 8:30, because from 8:30 to 8:45 or hopefully a little longer than that is mommy and daddy time, right? And of course, we'd like you to be able to go on a date night. You can do that at home when the kids are in bed. There's a lot of ways to have quality time. But just keep that 15 minutes in mind. It's 1% of your day. Make that a priority. Try to make it a consistent time. And if you need some help with, what should we do during those 15 minutes? Because, after a week of that, you can start to kind of stare at each other and run out of things to talk about that aren't the kids. Because again, you don't want it to always be about the kids. So, of course, we have this book, 15-Minute Marriage Makeover. And I'm not here to sell you the book. I'm actually here to tell you that it's free right now. We're giving away actual hard copies of the book. And there's a link here above the video, and I'll put it in the comments as well. So if you want to just go grab it, we'll ship it right to your house. And what you can do then when the kids get back into school is set that time aside, whether it's over coffee in the morning or over a glass of wine in the evening, and do the 15-minute activities in this book. What this does is for 28 days, it gives you exactly what to do, and everything in there takes less than 15 minutes, and it's extremely powerful. So hope that's helpful, guys. I would love to get your comments here on the page, and I'll be responding to those, and I'll see you on our next live video. If you do me a favor, if you found this helpful at all, please share it. Please share it on your Facebook wall. Let another busy parent know about this, and let them let this sink in and get their priorities straight. And maybe you need to share it with your spouse, and it will be a good topic of conversation in your home. So we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks a lot.